Heart-rending images show disaster in the IDP camp in Borno State, a troubled community familiar with tragedy. The incident, which occurred a few days after the Ides of January, made global and local headlines. No fewer than 100 persons were accidentally killed in the internally displaced persons camp in Ran, far north of Borno, when a Nigerian Air Force fighter jet involved in the counterinsurgency operation in the northeast fired at aid workers as they distributed food to internally displaced persons.
The jet bomber of the NAF bombed them, according to the military, in error, thinking that Ran was Kala. So the fighter did not check his coordinates. The fighter had no ground intelligence to support him. The fighter bomber just went there and saw all these hundreds of thousands of people, and he thought they were Boko Haram, and he did not recheck with anybody, and he killed hundreds of Nigerian citizens, babies, mothers, uncles, aid workers, people that had gone there to help the people that were internally displaced were killed.
The Boko Haram insurgency has become a rising cause of poverty in Nigeria. According to the United Nations Office for the Coordination of Humanitarian Affairs, the conflict in Nigeria's northeast, provoked by Boko Haram, resulted in widespread displacement, violations of international humanitarian and human rights law, protection risks, and a growing humanitarian crisis. Coming into its 8th year, the crisis shows no sign of abating and is adding to the long history of marginalization and chronic underdevelopment, as well as a higher rate of poverty, illiteracy, and unemployment. In the three most affected states of Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe, almost 7 million people are in need of humanitarian assistance, more than 50% of whom are children. In newly accessible areas, vulnerable host populations are in critical need of humanitarian interventions, including food, water, education, and health services. Escaping from attacks across the three most affected states, IDPs are taking shelter in the relative safety of urban centers. This is causing overcrowding in already inadequate living conditions and places resources and basic services under huge strain. In an area already economically deprived, more than 78% of internally displaced people are living among host communities. Their lack of access to livelihoods and resources is leading to risky coping strategies among displaced and host communities alike. Farmers' inability to return to the land for planting season has added to food insecurity. More than 4.8 million people are now in urgent need of food assistance, and 5.1 million are predicted to be food insecure if not supported by the humanitarian community in 2017. An estimated 300,000 children in Borno State alone will suffer from severe acute malnutrition over the next 12 months, and up to 450,000 in total across Adamawa, Borno, and Yobe if adequate assistance is not received. With the ongoing disruption to basic services such as health care, clean water, and sanitation, susceptibility to diseases increases. Poor drainage and stagnant water is leading to greater incidence of malaria and increases the likelihood of waterborne disease such as watery diarrhea and cholera. After 2 years without a reported case of polio, 4 cases were confirmed in Borno, an indicator of the urgent need to address the escalating health crisis. Beyond inflicting a staggering level of economic damage since 2009, the Boko Haram insurgency has torn the local social structure apart. The recent killings reported in southern Kaduna is a nightmare.
Each incident has led to a lot of killings because one person killed is one person too many. And that really is the problem with southern Kaduna, that we've got used to having people killed, that people think killing is normal. Killing a fellow Nigerian, killing a fellow human being, losing a life, having a human being burned is normal. It isn't. And government needs to show that Nigerian lives matter.
Then there is the fate of the Niger Deltans, an oil-rich community in the south region of Nigeria, suffering untold hardship and poverty owing to the degradation of their land. Their struggle for justice has given rise to militancy and ethnic unrest, which has further impoverished the region.
The villa showed the presence by launching the Ogoni environmental remediation. Oh, well, we all said thank you. Oh, I came out and gave so many kudos. I even traveled, I saw officials, and I said, this is good job. You see, when you with this, it all turned out to be one big scam. Up till now, not one shovel, not $1, not one project manager has been put in place in Ogoni to remediate that environment. So the question begs now, will the vice president's trip to Porosa translate to anything more than a photo op?
The United Nations report on Nigeria's Common Country Analysis has described the country as one of the poorest and unequal countries in the world, with over 80 million of her population living below poverty line. 2 years after General Muhammadu Buhari was elected into office, Nigerians are groaning under excruciating hardship and hunger. Their hopes for a positive change and better standard of living seemingly dashed. Many cannot afford 2 square meals a day.
People are in abject poverty, where the common man to find food self not boga. To eat is a problem. To feed is a massive problem for the people around now.
You people, they call change. We are saying change. Where is the change? Just tell me.
No fee buy, no fee sell. Bag of rice now from 7,000 naira to 16,000.
A common feature around many rural and urban communities in Nigeria shows the high level of suffering people are undergoing, with no electricity, no access to good water, poor health care, high cost of education, bad roads and high unemployment rate. The situation is pathetic. Many youths have taken to crime in order to survive, and crimes like armed robbery and kidnapping on the increase. Many others have embarked on dangerous voyages to flee the country in search of greener pastures. A good number have lost their lives in the process. Corruption and bad government policies have been attributed as a major cause of poverty in Nigeria. These have plunged the country into recession. Also, insurgency and uneven development are contributors to this problem. Government efforts to salvage the situation are seemingly futile, as the effects are not felt. What is worrisome is the fact that Nigerians are suffering in the midst of available natural resources. The giants of Africa, now referred to as the troubled giants. The situation seems hopeless. Expectations, however, are high that the government will implement policies that will engender sustainable growth and also tackle the endemic problem of corruption in order to eradicate the scourge of poverty in the country. Rachael Alegbo Ubani reporting.